Now I know it doesn't look like it, but this is still to do with how to write music for video using Sony Music Studio 8. You don't need a project for this. What you need is to be able to just watch this video and perhaps have a look at this sheet once we're finished. I've labelled this writing music for a whole scene. And what it is estimating the amount of time that you've got to actually score up and then work out the number of beats you need in that time at that particular tempo, and then the number of bars from that. It's a series of fairly simple, ordinary maths calculations, which if you follow this sheet, you'll be able to do every time. The first thing you've got to do is measure the amount of time between the 2 points in the video that you want to write the music to. This may be the whole video or a particular scene. For example, I've said the scene I'm looking at goes for 3 minutes and 28 seconds, 3:28. So let's convert the seconds to the minutes. 28 seconds divided by 60 seconds gives you 0.47 minutes. So the total amount of time is 3.47 minutes. So far pretty easy. Now the next step is to calculate the number of beats you want and then convert that to bars. First of all, you need to know roughly how fast you want to go. So if it's a bit pacey, 120, but try and tap it out and then try and work it out roughly from there. Perhaps play a few pieces of known tempo before you get an idea of that, but you really do need an idea of how fast you want it to go. So once you know how many beats there are per minute, BPM, you can multiply that figure by the number of minutes, 3.47, and you can get the total number of beats. As you can see, it's not an even number of beats, and you can adjust for this. But at the moment, let's just work out how many bars it actually translates to. Now if you're working with a waltz, you'll have 3 beats in the bar. If you're doing rock or dance, you'll have 4 beats in the bar. But you'll need to decide that as well. Because once you do, you divide that number, 3 or 4, into the number of beats you've got, and that'll give you how many bars. And now you know how many bars you're writing at the specific tempo. But because it's not an actual even number, you have to make a few adjustments now. Now let's say that you're not really interested in 104 bars. Let's say you're more interested in writing a piece of music that has 12 lots of 8 bars, which is 96 bars. So you're more interested in the number of bars than the actual tempo, because the two will vary. The faster it goes, the more bars you'll need. The slower it goes, the less. But if you've got 96 bars at the same number of beats per bar, then you're going to have less beats. So if you have less beats, it will have to go slower. And the way to work out the exact tempo is say, right, well, we're interested in 96 bars, which is close to 104. And then we know that if we multiply that by 4 beats in the bar, we'll have 384 beats. If we know how many minutes there are, then we'll know how many beats per minute. We divide that by the number of minutes we're going to be playing for, and that will give us our actual tempo. So that's one way to look at it. We know how many bars, roughly, at the speed that we wanted first. We can smooth that out to an actual usable type of bar structure. That'll give us the beats. Divide that by the minutes. That'll give us a tempo. Or if you're more interested at going at 120 and you don't care that it's going to be 104 bars, what you really want to do is get rid of that 0.1, because that's just going to pull your sync points out. And you know that if the sync points are too far out, then you're going to have to change things in such a way that you could actually end up more or less destroying what you first wrote. So it's very important to get this particular thing straight first. If your tempo is going to be roughly 120, and you don't want to give it up too much, you'll say, right, well, we want 416 beats, and we also want 3.47 minutes. So we divide the number of beats by the number of minutes, and that'll tell us how many beats per minute. It's not 120, it's 119.8, but that will get rid of the 0.1, and we know that we've got exactly 104 bars at that point. Now that's not so bad. For example, 96 to 100 is 4 bars, to 104 is 8. So we can say we can have 12 by 8 bar phrases, but we can begin with an 8 bar phrase as well, and we end up with 13 8 bar phrases. We could have an 8 bar intro. I've done this in the past too. When there's an odd number of bars, that can be accommodated by an instrumental section or just an extension of a particular piece. No one really notices that when they're watching the video. So the number of bars isn't always that important. What's important is the tempo, the phrasing, and the sense that the video belongs with the music. I'll see you next time.